Hare Krishna. Chapter 56 onwards, yes. Hare Krishna. So we're going to continue our deep dive into Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we'll be starting from chapter 56, and if Krishna aligns all the stars and times with us, we will go to chapter 74, all the way to the killing of Shishupal, or deliverance of Shishupal. Actually, that's a better way to say it, deliverance of Shishupal, which is roughly about 160 pages that we'll try to churn through. All right, we'll all do Mangal Charan together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vangsha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudire Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So we will start with chapter 56, summarizing from the Krishna book, which is Srila Prabhupada's wonderful summary of Canto 10. One time in what's the difficulty book, Shrutakirti Prabhu writes, one time Srila Prabhupada calls him into his room and says, if you read one book, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. You'll be liberated. Shrutakirti Prabhu is looking at Srila Prabhupada. He wasn't a big reader. Then he said, he was looking and Srila Prabhupada saw that he was not really willing to surrender. So then he said, read one chapter, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. And Shrutakirti Prabhu was saying that he was still looking bemused. So then he said, okay, read one page and you will be liberated. And then finally Srila Prabhupada says, if you read one word, you will be liberated. So in that mood, we have the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, and if we read his writings, so we will definitely get liberation. So we will take that as our mission. So chapter 56. Last time we left at the point where we see Pradyumna, he's reunited with Krishna and his mother Rukmini. And so now here the story of Shambhadaka Jewel is actually told. So Sukadev Goswami actually starts the story by saying there was a king within Dwaraka, his name was Satrajit. Like we said, there are many clans in Dwaraka. In the Yadu clan, there are I think about 100 plus clans, and then Satrajit was one of the king. He was a great devotee of the sun god. Now one may consider, hey, hang on, he's staying in Dwaraka, how come he's a devotee of sun god? So this, the way this is understood is, the people born in Dwaraka, within the Leela of this material creation, or Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj uses the word uniquadrantal in the 1/4 of the material. I like the word uniquadrantal. So he says within this manifestation in Dwaraka there are 3 types of people who you can see. You can see those who are devotees of Krishna. Then you see those that are demigods, like they have, they are staying in Vrindavan. Sorry, I apologize, in Dwaraka. And then there are, of course, devotees who are elevating, like, elevating back into the spiritual world. So all 3 of them you will find in Dwaraka. So here we can see sometimes you may find, people like King Satyajit who are more interested in being devotees of sun god. You can find them even in Dwaraka. So pleased by his devotion, sun god actually gives him a jewel, Shamantaka jewel. And this jewel was, amazing. And so what Satyajit used to do is he used to put the jewel on, and then he used to walk around. So one time he enters Dwaraka wearing this big jewel. So immediately the Dwaraka Vasis think that the sun god has arrived. So they immediately go to Krishna and say, "My dear Krishna, the sun god has come to see you." And we may think, hey, that's quite amazing, but actually in Dwaraka a lot of demigods keep coming. So they're very used to seeing some great personality coming who wants to meet Krishna. Of course, Krishna informs them that that's not the sun god, it's Satyajit. He's wearing a wonderful jewel. And so it is explained that Satyajit, when he enters back into Dwaraka after his big penance, he doesn't actually go to see Krishna. Right now, he's no. So it's like us, when we get our prasadam, Mahaprasad plate, we run straight to our room and start eating. So it's something like that. So he's like, he's got his possession, he's got what he wanted, right? So Satyajit, what he does is he makes a big temple and he installs the jewel. Of course, Krishna then, visits Satyajit. And the main reason why is that this jewel actually produces 170 pounds of gold every day. 170 pounds of gold every day. That's how wonderful this jewel was. So Krishna then comes to Satyajit and he tells him that, listen, this is such a amazing jewel. It should actually be offered to the king, which is Ugrasen. But Satyajit doesn't pay attention. He says, not really interested. He's not interested in giving it to the king. So Krishna understood. So then one time what happens is Satyajit's younger brother, his name is Prashena. He asks his brother, can I take the jewel, please? People should know how rich we are. He says, all right, take the jewel, but be careful. Prashena said, don't worry about it. As he goes out, with the jewel, a lion catches him. Now it is explained that this jewel was so wonderful that even the animals got attracted to it. So amazing is this jewel. So the lion killed, Prashena, and then he takes the jewel and he runs away. Of course, then the rumor spread in the jungle that, this lion has this wonderful jewel. So living in the jungle is, a personality called Jambavan. Now Jambavan, he's an amazing personality. He has lived through even Lord Ram's, era. And so he's still present at the time when Krishna is there. So when he hears this, he goes to the lion, he kills the lion and he takes the jewel. Of course, he's a devotee of Krishna, so he doesn't find anything amazing in that jewel. So he looks at it, he says, okay. So he gives it to his son to play as a toy. One time Mother Sita, she gives her pearl necklace to Hanuman. So the moment Hanuman gets it, he starts, breaking each pearl. So all people are looking at Hanuman and say, Hanuman, what are you doing? He says, Mother Sita gave me something, so I'm seeing inside what is there. Okay, I'm seeing, his Lord Ram's love inside. So then they're laughing and he's saying, no, actually, Lord Ram and Sita are in my heart. And then he rips open his heart and actually Ram and Sita are there. There are some amazing devotees. So Jambavan is from that time. So he sees the jewel, he's like, what's the big deal in this? And then he gives it to his son for playing. Now what happens is Satyajit starts realizing that his brother has not come back. So he knows something bad has happened to my brother. So he starts spreading the rumor, Krishna killed my brother to take my jewel. And he spreads the rumor all over Dwaraka. Right? So this, defamation of Krishna. Now when Krishna hears this false accusation, he says this is not good. He immediately sets out to set the record straight. He takes a bunch of people from Dwaraka and he sets out to find out what actually happened to the jewel. Now here is the difference between Vraja Leela and Dwaraka Leela. In Vraja Leela, when Krishna was accused, you're a thief, he was, no, I'm not. And the funny part was at that time, in Krishna's hand, there is butter. In his mouth, he's butter. He says, I didn't steal the butter. I didn't steal it. Prove it. Prove it. So it's like, dude, you got butter all over you. He's like, no, not me. So, but now in Dwaraka Leela, it's different. Now Krishna has a different position. So here he says, no, I have to clear my name. So then he goes out and then they find the dead body of Prashena, and then they inform people back, the Prashena is actually dead. Then they find the dead lion. So as they're tracking the steps, they're scouting their way through it, they finally come to this big tunnel. Bears, they stay in a tunnel. So Jambavan is a big bear. He stays in a tunnel. So when that tunnel comes in, all the Dwaraka Vasis are a bit scared. So Krishna looks at them and says, okay, don't worry, I'll go in the tunnel alone. Another difference. Right? When Aghasur opens his mouth and the big tunnel cave comes in, all the Brajabhais, let's go! And then Krishna is thinking, so Krishna has to accompany them into the tunnel. You see, the mood is so different. But here now they're all thinking, ooh, how do we enter this tunnel? So Krishna says, okay, I'll go. You stay outside. So then Krishna goes in, and then when he goes in, Jambavan's, there's a nurse who's taking care of Jambavan's kid. When she sees Krishna, because, Krishna is extremely effulgent. He's got Kastuba jewel, he's amazing personality. So when he enters, he's looking shining into a cave. She just freaks out. Ah, who is this personality? Now, actually, one thing we can appreciate from this reaction is this is pretty much how it would be if Krishna actually came in front of all of us. If Krishna suddenly actually came in front of all of us, we'd scream. We'd not be able to handle it. Right? So this is one appreciation, right? So we have to start saying that's why Krishna is coming in this wonderful form of Vigraha. Because then we can see Krishna. We can observe him. And we can learn to start building Sambandha. So that's the reason. Because if we actually came in front, we won't be able to deal. And so hearing the scream, Jambavan comes out and he says, what's going on? And then he sees Krishna. Now deluded by the love of danger to his child, deluded by that danger, he does not see who Krishna actually is. He doesn't see that. And he immediately attacks Krishna. Another difference between Vraja Leela and outside Vraja Leela. In Vraja Leela, what is happening is that the mothers and the parents, they are giving the best to Krishna and the secondary stuff to their children. Right? They are telling that, Krishna, we made this for you. My kid, you can have this. So see the difference. But here we see there's a different mood. So Jambavan, in that delusion, he goes in and he starts fighting with Krishna. And they both fight for only 28 days, not more. And it is explained that this fighting of 28 days is day and night, non-stop. Remember, Jambavan is from a previous yuga. He's from Treta Yuga. He's from a previous time. Extremely powerful personality. Right? Very powerful person. So after fighting for 28 days, Jambavan starts getting tired. He's like, who is this person? And then he starts realizing, oh, this is Krishna. And actually, our acharyas actually tell us that soon Jambavan understands that he was put into this illusion. He was put into this illusion because Krishna wanted some service from him. Krishna wanted someone to fight with him. So Jambavan was put into that illusion. We see Jaya and Vijaya also take this position when they feel that Lord Vishnu wants to fight. Here we see Jambavan take that position, right? So then Jambavan finally tells Krishna, Krishna, you are that supreme personality of Godhead. He then remembers the stories of Ramayana and he says that you are that same personality. And so he says that you are none other than Lord Ramachandra. So Krishna becomes satisfied by his prayers and, obviously there's, a lovely mellow there, of the meeting of, the devotee and the Lord. And then Jambavan as an offering, he gives back the Shamantaka jewel, but he says, there is another jewel in my life. See, the jewel was meaningless for him. Like, he had no meaning for that jewel. He gave the jewel away. But you can see how much attraction Jambavan had for his children, for his son. He had so much attraction. So he says, I have another jewel, my daughter, Jambavati. So you please take this Jambavati, right? And please take her as your wife. So she becomes the second wife of Krishna, Jambavati, right? So then Krishna, obviously, what Krishna then does is he comes out of the tunnel with Jambavati, but he sees that the Dwaraka Vasis are not there. So what actually happened was they were all waiting for 12 days outside the cave. They saw Krishna hasn't come, so they left. And then they went back and then, the Dwaraka Vasis like, where's Krishna? And then they're like, oh, Krishna is gone, he's missing, oh no, what happened? And then, they are calling Satyajit ill names. Now you can start seeing the difference between Vraja Leela and here. In Vraja, the moment they see Krishna is in trouble, everybody comes and they're like, oh, we'll jump in, they want to jump into Yamuna, which is poisonous, to save Krishna from Kaliya. Their mood is so different. Here they're sitting in the wonderful palace and saying, oh, Satyajit. And then what they do is they actually go to the goddess Chandrabhaga, and then they go and pray to her, says, please return Krishna to us. And then, of course, Krishna reappears, accompanied by Jambavati. He then meets Ugrasen. Ugrasen has a big meeting. He explains what happened to the jewel. King Satyajit is also called. Everything is explained to him, and then the jewel is given to him. Now, Satyajit is feeling very bad because he spread a rumor about Krishna. Right? So usually, if we start spreading a rumor, you don't know where the rumor started. But Satyajit, he is, after all, living in Dwarka. There is some qualification. He realizes his mistake. So what he then does is he decides, let me offer my daughter, right, and the jewel to Krishna. So Krishna says, thank you, I accept your daughter, Satyabhama. However, the jewel you keep. You keep the jewel with you, right? And so please, you maintain the jewel, leave it in the temple and you maintain it. So in this way, Krishna marries his third wife, okay, Satyabhama. Now Satyabhama, she is, it is explained that, within the Dwaraka forms and the Vishnu forms, there are three major forms, Shri, Bhu and Neela. Right, so this is your, Samvit, Sandhini and Hladini Shaktis, the three forms. So you will always see in Vishnu temples, you'll always see these three forms. You'll see Shri is to the left of, to Lord Vishnu, and then Bhu is always to the right. And sometimes, you may only see two of them, but actually it is explained that the lotus flower on which Krishna stands, that she is Neela. Right, so that is Neela. So always all three of them are there. In that construct, all three of them. This Bhaktividya Poon Maharaj explains this. That you'll always see this. Usually you will always see, what you call Bhu and Neela as personalities. Usually in Vishnu temples. But if you don't, then you have to understand it's the lotus flower, that is Neela. Okay? So Satyabhama, she, actually represents the Bhu energy of Bhu. Right? So she's at, in the story, she becomes the third wife of Krishna. Now, what actually happens is, after this, news comes from Hastinapur to Krishna. We are now in chapter 57. And when this news comes, it is heard that the Pandavas and the Queen Kunti have been burnt in the, in the palace of Lak. And then listening to this, Krishna and Balram, obviously they know Pandavas and Kunti have not died, but if you get the news that your near relatives have died, you have to do the obligation of going. So they go to Hastinapur, and then when they are away in Hastinapur, a plot is set up in Dwaraka. Now there is a personality in Dwaraka. His name is Satadhanva. Now Satadhanva was actually promised Satyabhama. Satyajit had promised him that I'll give you my daughter, but of course Satyajit changed his mind because he made a lot of mistakes. Now it is explained that this Satvadhanva, he was very angry by this. So he decided that he is going to kill Satyajit, take the jewel. And for this, he decided to take two accomplices, Akrura and Kritavarma. Now Akrura, obviously, we know Akrura, he's the uncle. And Kritavarma, he's the commander-in-chief, right? So, he's a very famous personality. Our acharyas actually explain two things about this position. So first we'll see how Srila Prabhupada explains why this happened. Why would personalities like Akrura and Kritavarma, why would they get involved in this conspiracy? So first they explain about Akrura. They say Akrura was actually cursed by the gopis because he took Krishna away from them. So because of this, he had to suffer a little bit. And they're saying that Kritavarma, the reason he got involved is because he was intimately associated with Kamsa. So a little bit that, that association had some effect on him. So that is why. It is also explained by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur in Sartha Darshani that Akrura and Kritavarma, actually they were very angry with Krishna. So that's another reason they give. They were I apologize, not with Krishna. I apologize, with Satyajit. They are saying that, he insulted Krishna, and then, look, he made Krishna, we nearly thought Krishna died, So they got involved in this conspiracy because of that. So Srila Prabhupada gives the direct meaning, and there are some indirect meanings as well. But in whatever shape or form, they were involved in the conspiracy. So what actually happens is Satyabhama enters in the middle of the night in Satyajit's house. He kills Satyajit, stabs him to death, steals the jewel. But at that time, there are people there in the palace. They all start screaming. So Satyabhama jumps out and then he runs off. Now Satyabhama gets the news that her father has died. So now, we have to start appreciating something. This is Dwaraka. This is Dwaraka. She is, like from Mahalakshmi. From Mahalakshmi come the, 8 energies, and these 8 energies are the first 8 wives of Krishna. Right? So how we have Mahanarayan, from Mahanarayan come the Chaturvyuhas, similar construct, right? So now the funny thing here is that Satyabhama just lost her father, right, in Dwaraka. So the reason why these things are explained is that within the material world, there is a lot of angst. And we can see Krishna, in playing the role of a human being, he also goes through these loss of relatives and all of these emotions. He also goes through them, right? So if sometimes something not so nice happens to us, we can always look to Bhagavatam to say, okay, we've seen great personalities go through this pain, and we can see Krishna also act as if he has gone through this type of pain. Act. He isn't going through any pain, but he acts in that format. So then, of course, Satyabhama, what she does is she immediately goes to Hastinapur, informs Krishna, your father-in-law, has been killed. Krishna, excuses himself from Hastinapur, comes back. He makes up his mind that he's going to kill, Satyabhama. So Satyabhama then comes to Kritavarma and he says, my dear Kritavarma, please save me. Kritavarma says, what do you mean? I have personally seen Krishna kill Kamsa in front of me. You can't be saved. Why did you kill Satyajit? And then he goes to Akrura. Akrura says, I have, personally seen, the Purusha avatars of Krishna. And then he explains, even in, in Vrindavan, I've heard these leelas that he lifted Govardhan, he killed this demon, he killed that demon. So Satyabhama thinks, okay, no one's going to help me. But he realizes Akrura is a very truthful person. So he says, Akrura, you please keep this jewel of mine. This is quote unquote. So Sridhar Swami mentions this, he's still thinking, he's so deluded. Sridhar Swami is mentioned, he's so deluded, he's still thinking this jewel is mine. Keep this jewel in mind, I'll quickly escape from Krishna and come back and pick it up. He's going to escape from Krishna. Rakhe Krishna mare ke, mare Krishna rakhe ke. So then he runs away from the city. Satyabhama is in his horse, dies of exhaustion. And then, Satyabhama starts running, on his foot. But Krishna immediately sends his Sudarshan Chakra and then he kills, Satyabhama. But then when he arrives there, he sees the jewel is not there with Satyabhama. So then he comes back to Dwaraka saying, the jewel is missing. We're not able to find it. Then they do the funeral rites of King Satyajit. But they start realizing that Akrura is missing. Because what happened is when Akrura got the Shambhataka jewel, he was thinking, it's too much panic here. He left. He immediately ran off. He went back to his, to his native area. And so then what happens is the Dwaraka Vasis are saying that I am seeing some, inauspiciousness. Is it because Akrura is not there? Now Akrura's father was very powerful personality, right? And so it is explained that even Akrura was considered very auspicious because of his father. Even Akrura had got this potency of being very auspicious wherever he went. So Krishna then understands what's going on. Finally, he calls Akrura back to Dwaraka. And he tells Akrura that, Akrura, I know the Shambhataka jewel is with you. The reason I know this is that you have been performing great sacrifices. And you've been giving a lot of stuff in charity. Obviously, you have the jewel. So please return the jewel, right? It's actually explained that, sorry, I forgot to mention this part, that Balram, after Krishna kills Satyabhama, right, Balram decides to go to Mithila. The king of Mithila was his great friend. And it is explained that so Krishna then himself went back alone to Dwaraka. So when he's talking to Akrura, when he's saying that, my dear Akrura, Balram wants to see the jewel, but Balram isn't there. But Akrura understands that, Krishna now knows. Right, so finally Akrura gives the jewel back to Krishna. And then once Krishna sees the jewel, he says, okay, everything is fine. He puts it back in the temple and the puja continues. It is also explained that when Balram was staying in Mithila, that is where he met Duryodhana. So he stayed for some years in Mithila. He stayed there in Mithila for some years. That's where he met Duryodhana, and that's where he taught him the art of fighting with the club in this place. So now we come to chapter 58. In chapter 58, we see Krishna, he marries. So now Krishna has 3 wives, Rukmini, Jambavati, and Satyabhama. And now he marries 5 more queens. So chapter 58 explains that. So first thing is explained is now, by this time it is understood that Pandavas have married Draupadi. They have come back from their hiding. So Krishna goes and Hastinapur to meet them, right? So at this point, it is very nicely explained how Krishna deals with the Pandavas. To Yudhisthira and Bhima, he touches their feet. To Arjuna, he embraces because they are the same age. Yudhisthira and Bhima are elder. And Nakul and Sahadev, they are younger to Krishna, so they touch Krishna's feet. So these 3 moods of how you deal with devotees, this is going to come in Uddhav Gita. In Uddhav Gita, this is explained how to deal with devotees, right? And so you will see this dealing in how Krishna deals. Then he meets Draupadi. He asks Draupadi, how are you doing? He meets Mother Kunti, right? And of course, they are saying, my dear Krishna, thank you for protecting us, right? And we are in so much anxiety, so much angst. Krishna blesses them. And then it is explained that Krishna decides to stay there for some time with them because, they have just come out from all of this hassle. This is a part where, it is decided that the kingdom will be divided in half, right? So they have Hastinapur, and in the Prastha, there will be 2 seats of, 2 seats of the kingdom. And it is at this point that, Krishna and Arjuna, they decide to go out for a hunt, right? So Arjuna goes out, he goes for a big hunt. And then as they get tired of hunting, they go to the river Yamuna. When they go to this wonderful river Yamuna, they see a wonderful girl there. Now this girl is actually Yamuna personified, Kalindi. We say, Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya. So that singing is there, right? So this is Kalindi. So this is Kalindi, she is the personification, right? So then she asks, so Krishna tells Arjuna, please ask her who she is. She asks Arjuna that you're a devotee of Krishna. Please ask Krishna to accept me as his wife. Right? So Arjuna comes back, informs Krishna. Krishna agrees. And he takes her and makes her his wife. So now he gets the 4th wife. Then it is also explained here that the Khandava forest, the burning of the big forest where, Agni, he's having indigestion problems. So he asks Krishna that I want to eat this forest. So, can you please help me? So it's a wonderful episode. This is all in Mahabharata. But it is explained, it is explained that this episode happens at this time. So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, he explains the process that first Krishna meets Yudhishthira, right? Then the Khandava forest, forest fire thing happens. Then Krishna meets Kalindi. And then they build this wonderful palace, or wonderful Maya palace. So what actually happens is in this forest of Khandava, the Maya demon is staying. So Krishna saves the Maya demon. And then Yudhishthira now, because he's got half the kingdom, he wants to build a wonderful palace for himself. So Krishna asks Vishwakarma to build a wonderful city. And then he asks Maya to build a wonderful palace. This palace is very illusional palace. We're going to come to that story of how illusional it is, right? So, then what happens is there is another king, there are twin kings. So this kingdom has 2 kings. They both are ruling at the same time, twins, right? In Avantipura, and they have a sister by the name Mitra Vinda. So Mitra Vinda, they have a big, Swayambar for Mitra Vinda. And actually, the 2 kings tell Mitra Vinda, do not choose Krishna as your husband, because they were very favorable to Duryodhana. So don't choose Krishna. But in the Swayambar, Krishna picks Mitra Vinda and he goes. He just leaves. So then he takes Mitra Vinda as his another wife. Then there is another king by the name Nagnajit, and his daughter Nagnajiti, and she is the representation of Neela, like Shri Bhu Neela. So Shri is Rukmini, Bhu is Satyabhama, and Jiti, she is Neela. Right, so in order to win her, Krishna has these 7 bulls that he must, yoke these bulls. Not yoke, I apologize. He needs to put the rope across their noses and then pull them. That's the test. So Krishna passes that test. Now, in order to pass this test, Krishna, he expands himself 7 times. So it is one of the things the Acharya tell us, the reason Krishna does this, to expand himself 7 times, is to show the queen, Nagna Jiti, don't worry, you will have me personally 1-to-1. Don't worry, right? I'm expanding myself. So the Acharyas explain this to us. And so so she becomes the 7th, and then, she becomes the 6th. Then there is another queen, her name is Bhadra. She is the daughter of Krishna's paternal aunt, Shrutakirti. So Krishna also accepts her as his wife. And then finally he accepts Lakshmana as his wife. Right now, she has a wonderful Swayambar, which Krishna wins. But we will come to that Swayambar in future chapters. So here, Sukadev Goswami just simply says that Krishna wins her in the Swayambar and he takes her away. Right? But then this is going to be explained in the future stories. Now we come to chapter 59. Now chapter 59 is an interesting chapter because it talks about the killing of Bhaumasura. Now who is Bhaumasura or Narakasura? He's the son of Krishna. Right? In the form of Varaha. Vara and Bhudevi, they have a son. The name of the son is Bhaumasura or Narakasura. Right? Now one may think, how come an Asura is born, with this combination? Well, look at all of us. Look in the mirror. We are also children of Krishna. So Asuras are born. It happens. So, this explanation is given. So, this is how it is. So, this Bhaumasura, he was slowly causing a lot of problems for the demigods. He had stolen the umbrella of Varuna. He had stolen the earrings of Aditi. And, he had, taken the top of Mount Meru. If you see the cosmology study, the top of Mount Meru are where the cities of the demigods are. The top has been taken. Mani Parvata has been taken. So he's an extremely powerful guy. He's just snatching things from the demigods. That's, finally the demigods have had it. Now, no one can defeat this guy. He's the son of Krishna, right? So they come to Krishna. He says, my dear Krishna, right, please do something. So then Krishna says, okay, he takes Satyabhama with him. Now, why does he take Satyabhama? The Acharyas actually explain the reason Satyabhama is taken, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains, is that she is taken because Bhaumasura is his son. Is Bhumi Devi's son. And so she represents the Bhu principle. So he's thinking, if I take her with me, then she will give me the blessings and I'll then kill him. He needs, he doesn't want to hurt Satyabhama as well. So Satyabhama comes with Krishna. They sit in Garuda and they go and they attack Bhaumasura. Right? And so Bhaumasura has, this, the way it is explained that this is, like a technologically advanced security system. That this, it has like gas chambers, lasers. It is like, amazing stuff. It is. This was all made by this demon called Mura. He was, your security expert. In movies you always have this, this guy who is a goon. He's your security guy. And he's, those big bad guys. Like in James Bond, you have the guy with the golden teeth and the hat. So you'll see all these, security personnel. So Mura, this demon Mura was like that. He was a security personnel for Bhaumasura. And he had made this, amazing security system, right, which could not be defeated. But Krishna, with his Sudarshan Chakra, he just blasts through everything. Gas chambers, laser lights, he just bangs through everything. So Mura finally gets angry. He comes out. He's a 5-headed demon. He fights with Krishna. Krishna eventually kills him. Right? So that's why Krishna gets the name Murari. The name Murari comes from this. Right? And so then Mura had 7 sons. And then they also attack Krishna. And more demons attack Krishna. Krishna kills everybody. Finally, Bhaumasura himself comes out. And so our acharyas explain that the reason why Satyabhama was there is Krishna wanted Satyabhama to see, oh, Krishna is getting in trouble. Oh, Krishna, please protect, please kill this demon. So like that, he gets the permission to kill Bhaumasura. Right? So that mood is there. Now, it is important to remember some of these stories is because when we will come to Canto 11, and the killing of the Yadus is going to be described, we have to see that Krishna has killed his relatives before. He's killed his maternal uncle Kamsa. He's killing his kid Bhaumasura here. He's done this stuff before. It's nothing amazing. The Maushala Leela, the killing of the Yadus, that's normal. Krishna does that. He does it continuously. So then, finally after killing Bhaumasura, the Bhumi Devi comes out and she actually garlands Krishna. Now her son's just been killed. But then she first praises Krishna and says, Krishna, you are here to deliver everybody. Guy was not a good boy. He had to be killed. But then he says that here is his son. His son is Bhagada. He's very much afraid. So Krishna blesses him, and says, don't worry. Everything will be fine. Then Krishna then does all the rites, the funeral rites. And then Krishna finds out that there are 16,100 princesses captured by Bhaumasura. 16,100. It is explained that, all of these were like daughters of demigods, right? But our acharyas actually explain that they were actually the grown-up gopis. So the young gopis who were in Vrindavan, now they have grown up and 16,100 have now become these princesses, right? So our acharyas actually explain this to give us a different vision, right? And so then they decide to make Krishna their husband. Krishna accepts this position. He says, yes, okay, take you as my wives. And then Krishna and Satyabhama, they go all the way up to Amravati, where Indra lives. Remember, Indra complained. Indra complained that please kill Bhaumasura. So Krishna comes back to Indra and says, my dear Indra, take these wonderful earrings of your mother back. Okay? He's very thankful. He's very gracious. And Krishna returns the umbrella of Varuna, and all these wonderful things are happening. Then we see Satyabhama sees this parijata tree. Right? So she looks at the tree and Satyabhama, uproots the tree. This is how powerful the wives of Krishna are. She's uprooting a tree from the heavenly regions. She has to be extremely powerful, right? She just picks it up, puts it on top of Garuda, and says, Krishna, let's go. Now the reason this happens is one time this is called jealousy, right? One time Narad Muni had come to Dwaraka and he had offered a parijata flower to Rukmini. So since that, Satyabhama got very, how come I didn't get anything, why Rukmini got? So there is, competition between, Shri and Bhu. So Rukmini and Satyabhama, they have this competition. So this time she thought, okay, she got a flower, I'm taking the tree. Of course, now when this happened, Indra gets very angry. And then the fight ensues. And Krishna obviously defeats them, right? Now, in this, Sukadev Goswami actually gets very angry. And he says, see how foolish person this Indra is. He came begging to Krishna. He couldn't defeat a demon. Krishna defeats the demon. Krishna is taking the parijata tree and he's getting angry. You know what's the funny thing? Funny thing is when Dwaraka was getting built, Indra himself personally, gave a parijata tree to Krishna. So parijata trees were already in Dwaraka. It's not like they were not. But still, without permission, how they can take the tree? Whose permission does Krishna need? So, Sukadev Goswami is a bit angry about that, right? Of course, then Krishna comes back to Dwaraka. He marries the 16,100 girls. And now, what actually, so this concludes, chapter 59. Now, in chapter 60, we see an interesting conversation between Krishna and Rukmini. Right now, what's actually happened is all of this fighting has finished. Krishna has come back. Now, as Krishna is thinking, our acharyas are explaining that Krishna is thinking, Rukmini got a flower, Satyabhama then snatched a tree, right? Rukmini may now ask me for the whole world. So he thinks, okay, let me just resolve this situation. So as Rukmini and Krishna are sitting and Rukmini is personally fanning Krishna, Krishna starts telling Rukmini that, my dear Rukmini, I find it very surprising that you married me. There were such great kings that wanted to marry you, Shishupala. He's giving, these names of these kings, and he's saying they were so, qualified. And in fact, your parents had chosen a qualified boy for you. Chosen a qualified boy. Instead, you chose me. What type of person I am? So, Krishna starts explaining, I have no, I have no possession. I ran away from the kings. I'm living in the ocean. I'm really scared. So Krishna starts, building up this position, and he finally tells Rukmini that I personally recommend that you leave me, go back and marry somebody else. Now, listening to this, Rukmini gets extremely perturbed. And then Krishna also says that, I'm not interested in, married life. I just want to leave everything and I want to go. So listening to this, Rukmini immediately faints. Now, our acharyas actually explain that there were many reasons why Krishna did this, right? He was saying one of the reasons is, Srila Prabhupada mentions here that, Rukmini got a bit proud that Krishna was spending the most time with her because she was, genuinely an amazing personality. So Krishna really liked her. When Krishna does not like pride in his devotees, so immediately he crushed her pride, right? And we see the same thing happen even in Rasa Leela. You see similar construct, right? So when she loses her consciousness, Krishna picks her up and says, okay, I was just joking, relax. Backtracking after you've made a mistake. So Krishna is like, oh, no. And then he was saying, I was expecting that you will counteract. This is how, lovers deal. So Krishna is, sweet talking her. So she actually then gives her, once she comes back to her and she realizes Krishna is not going to leave her, she then starts arguing with Krishna and says, yes, you are correct. Indeed, there is no comparison between you and these kings, right? There's just no comparison because you're the topmost. How can there be a comparison? And then, she says that, yes, just like Garbhodakshayi Vishnu lies in the, in the Garbhoka ocean and Mahavishnu lie in the Karunodakshayi ocean. Similarly, you are also lying down in this ocean here in Dwaraka. You are correct. So then the amazing thing, and when we read this, if you read this, it's so beautiful, how Rukmini then qualifies every statement of Krishna. So, Krishna is making statements of, I am not that good. Only, poor beggars keep running behind me. She's like, yes, these poor beggars are Paramhamsas. So, she then starts answering. It's very nice. We don't have time. But, it's really amazing. If you ever get a chance to read this, it's a really, beautiful conversation between them. And then, Krishna actually finally tells Rukmini that I agree with every statement you have made. And in fact, I have thousands of wives, but you are the best. So you see, it's interesting, isn't it? First they are saying Rukmini got proud. So now Krishna is still telling her, no, but you are the best. So you see, so it's not like when Krishna smashes your pride that you have lost something. No, you are still the best. See, if you are good at something, Krishna smashes your pride. But it's okay, right? You're still the best. Krishna does appreciate it. Obviously, there's an expectation that the devotee surrenders more to Krishna. So then this happens, right? Now, it's in chapter 61, we see the family of Krishna is being described. And it is explained that Krishna, from his 16,108 wives, he had 10 sons each, right? And then, of course, grandsons and everything. So it said that Krishna's family alone was 1 billion. Just Krishna's family alone was 1 billion. There were 30 million teachers. You can imagine how many kids there were. 30 million teachers, right? And it is explained, Ugrasen's own personal army was one quadrillion, like, big number. His personal security was 1 quadrillion. Ugrasen's. So, Dwaraka is like a huge place, right? So, during this conversation, we see that Parikshit Maharaj actually asked Sukadev Goswami about Rukmi and how Rukmi, gave all his daughters, right? Sorry, all his, his sister and his daughter and granddaughter to Krishna. So then Sukadev Goswami actually explains the story to say that first, Rukmi had to give his sister to Krishna, to Vasudev, right? So that's the principle. Then he had to give his daughter, daughter Rukmavati to Pradyumna, right? They got married. And then he had to give his granddaughter, her name is Rochana, to Aniruddha. Right? So Vasudev, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. He had to, so he gave his sister, his daughter and his granddaughter. Nonetheless, he remained envious to Krishna because Krishna insulted him. You remember Krishna shaved his head off? So Krishna, I don't like. And so what happens is during the marriage of Aniruddha, this king of Kalindi, he tells Rukmi, let's have a chess match with this Balram. And we'll defeat him in chess match. So then they agree and then Balram joins and then they're having a chess match. And Balram loses the first match, the second match, the third match. So like that, they're all laughing. And this, king of Kalinda, he's criticizing Krishna and Balram, but in a joking way. And he's laughing and laughing and laughing. So Balram is slowly getting angry. Balram is guru, right? So it takes time to, make him angry. It just takes some time. So then finally, after some time, Balram starts winning, right? So Rukmi say, no, you cheated. And so this time they make a bet of 100 million gold coins. And then they, play the chess game. And Balram wins. Now Rukmi, he completely loses his mind. Vinash kale viprita buddhi. So he loses his mind and he starts criticizing Balram. Balram immediately takes his club, smacks us on his head and kills Rukmi. Right? Then the king of Kalinda, he catches him and he breaks all his teeth because of laughing. Now one thing in this story we can appreciate that eventually as we grow old, all of our teeth will also break. We've been laughing and jovially living in this material world. And all our teeth will break. Right? So that's Lord Balram, smashing and breaking our teeth. So, we should learn to become devotees of Krishna. Now in chapter 62, we see a wonderful story of Banasura. So the way the Banasura comes from a very amazing family. So we have Hiranyakashipu, he's from the family of the demons. Hiranyakashipu's son was Prahlad. Prahlad's son was Virochana. Virochana's son was Bali. And Bali's son is Banasura. And this Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. Amazing devotee of Lord Shiva. Right? Actually, I just realized that... No, that's fine. Sorry, I thought I skipped the chapter. I did not. Sorry, I'm in 61. Yeah, good, I'm in 62. I have not skipped the chapter, thank God. So I just realized I was thinking I skipped the chapter. So this Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and one time when Lord Shiva was dancing, he played the mridanga he had 1,000 hands. So he was playing mridanga with 1,000 hands. And Lord Shiva was dancing, he became very happy. He said, you're a very good musician. Sometimes we have devotees, 4 or 5 mridanga players all playing together, you're like, yeah, very nice, so nice. So then he asked him for, asked for any benediction. So Lord Shiva actually, Banasura says, my dear Lord Shiva, please stay in my city. So Lord Shiva agrees. And then one time Banasura comes to Lord Shiva and says, my dear Lord Shiva, I am realizing what's the point of these 1,000 arms? I find nobody to fight with. Whenever I challenge somebody, they run away. So just to remove the itch of my hand, I crush mountains. So, Lord Shiva is looking at me, he says, you fool, you rascal. That's the word he uses, you rascal. You will soon find somebody, your match. Now, when Banasura hears this, he becomes very elated. He's like, Lord Shiva has given me blessings. I'll find someone who I can fight with. Srila Prabhupada actually writes here to say, this is how foolish karmis work. What happens is they don't know what to do with their opulence. Right? So they start challenging Krishna. Right? And you will see this among scientists, moralists. They will always keep challenging Krishna. Right? But Banasura is that example of foolishness, and that's Maya Aprita Jnana. Right? So they're foolish. So then what happens is Banasura actually had a beautiful daughter by the name Usha. And one time Usha wakes up from her sleep. She says, I saw a dream of a beautiful personality. And she had her friend's name was Chitralekha. And Chitralekha had this unique mystic power that she could draw anybody's picture. Like, think of, the CCTV cameras and, the face, recognition programs written by all the big people. Chitralekha had yogic siddhi of that. She had the mystic powers. And so she's telling Usha, I will draw the personality that you saw. And then she starts drawing all these various people. Finally, when she sees the picture of Aniruddha, Usha says, that's the boy. Immediately, Chitralekha, she goes to Dwaraka. She sees Aniruddha, and she picks Aniruddha up and takes her into Usha's, inner chambers. Now, it is explained that Aniruddha is actually Shirodakshahi Vishnu. Aniruddha, he's Shirodakshahi Vishnu. So he actually is staying in our hearts. He's the Paramatma. Right? So in our inner core, inner chamber, he's staying there. So this example of, Aniruddha going into the inner chambers and staying with Usha is just to explain that. Right? She is staying in the inner heart, Aniruddha. So of course, Aniruddha spends a lot of time with her there. Finally, the news comes to Banasura that there's a boy staying with your daughter. Banasura gets very angry. When he comes and he sees Aniruddha, and when he looks at him, he says, this boy is very qualified. He's fit to marry my daughter. But how could he enter my house like this? You see, this is a foolish personality, right? You see somebody, you say, this is highly qualified. But, why you came? And then attacks and he wants to kill him, right? Of course, Aniruddha, he beats everybody up, kills the army. But finally, Banasura has this weapon given by Lord Shiva, Nagapasa. So he throws that and it seizes Aniruddha. Now, Narad Muni immediately rushes to Dwaraka and informs Krishna, my dear Krishna. This has happened. Aniruddha has been arrested. So Krishna goes there with his army. Right? He goes rushing there with his army. And then when he comes there, a fight ensues. And this time, Lord Shiva, Kartikeya, Ganesh, his entire family, Lord Shiva's family, along with all the ghosts and the goblins, everybody arrives there to fight with Krishna. Like this is like a full-on fight. And so, Krishna, like all the demigods, they're coming, they're thinking, whoa, man, we've never seen this. We've never seen, Shiva fighting with Krishna. This is going to be something. So then this is like, mano a mano, 1-to-1 fighting, right? And so Krishna, first what he does is he kills all the ghosts and the goblins and he throws them away. It is explained that, why there are ghosts and goblins with Lord Shiva. Because the impersonalists and the Shivaites, they pray to Shiva for liberation. But Lord Shiva cannot give liberation. Right? So when these people reach to Lord Shiva's abode, he gives them a body of a ghost. He has nothing else. He can't give you liberation. So that's why he has these ghosts and the goblins. So he gives them, okay, you become a ghost, you become a goblin. Right? So that is one understanding. Like that's why he tells his wife Parvati that only Vishnu can give liberation. So anyway, Krishna first drives away these ghosts. And then Lord Shiva, then, he releases his Pashupatra weapon. Krishna releases his Narayanastra. And then, in this, something funny happens. Krishna releases a yawning weapon. And it is amazing that, in the morning Bhagavatam classes, we see this weapon of Krishna. The yawning weapon, when someone is giving, like many times I remember when I sit in Bhagavatam classes, I just, So this yawning weapon of Krishna is real. It's a real weapon. And this weapon, when Krishna releases it, it is explained that Lord Shiva becomes so fatigued. He says, I don't want to fight. And then he goes and he just rests. Now, Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj makes a very interesting point that in Linga Puran, or in Shiva, I think Linga Puran. In Linga Puran, this story is actually mentioned in a different way. It is explained the way the story is written. That when Lord Shiva was, fighting with Krishna, looking at the way Krishna was fighting, Lord Shiva just yawned. So it's the same story, right? Now, do you understand how Vyasadeva presents it? So those who are interested in mode of ignorance, they see this and say, Lord Shiva was yawning as if to mock Krishna. What weapons do you have? But here the actual position, that's why Mahapurana is needed to give the actual position. That actually Krishna makes Lord Shiva yawn, right, and get tired. And so we actually see, time's running. We actually see Pradyumna, Pradyumna fighting with Kartikeya. He defeats Kartikeya. And then finally, because Lord Shiva has fatigued and left the battlefield, Banasur comes to fight with Krishna. Krishna, as he's fighting with Banasur, he's about to kill him. But one demi-goddess Kotsara comes, and she comes, in front of Krishna naked. And when Krishna sees this, he's like, this is terrible. It's nonsense. Right? And then, taking opportunity of that, Banasura runs away from the battlefield, right? And then what happens is Lord Shiva, as a last attempt, he releases his Shiva Jwara weapon. This is the weapon of destruction. When the destruction comes, so Shiva Jwara, it is excessive heat. It is explained that when, a person is dying, his body temperature increases. Your body temperature, that excessive heat. Right? And so Shiva Jwara is, he is of the point of annihilation. That is the level of excessive heat we are talking. So Krishna then releases his Narayan Jwara, his excessive cold. Now, in the Game of Thrones, there is the song of ice and fire. This is the song of ice and fire. So the fire is Shiva Jwara and Narayan is the, ice. And so it is, Srila Prabhupada writes so beautifully. He says, excessive heat can be bared. Like you can bear it, it's very hot. You're like, I can't do anything. But he says excessive cold can't be bared. So what is happening is because of this excessive cold, the Shiva Jwara is now about to collapse and die. So he comes to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva tells him, I'm unable to help you. I'm myself yawning and fatigued. I have no ability to help. So it is explained that Shiva Jwara gets his intelligence. Then he surrenders to Krishna in this wonderful poem that he glorifies Krishna. It's beautiful poetry, right? And then finally Krishna says, I am pleased. And he says, don't worry. And then he retracts his Narayana Jwara. Right? And so our acharyas are actually explaining that all of this is to explain. All of this is to explain Krishna's greatness. Right? Krishna is really great. Like you will see Lord Shiva and many more demons are going to come who pray to Lord Shiva that Krishna is going to destroy. Right? This is not just one example. There are loads of them. Right? And so our acharyas are explaining that Krishna is the topmost, that even the most powerful weapon of Lord Shiva has to surrender to Krishna. And of course, Lord Shiva himself surrenders to Krishna. So, that is highly regarded. So then finally, when Banasura comes, Krishna with Sudarshan Chakra cuts down his arms. And then finally, when 4 arms are left, Lord Shiva comes and he says, my dear Krishna, I'm surrendering to you. Yeah, and then, he glorifies Krishna. And finally, he says that this Banasur, I really like him. So please don't kill him. So Krishna says, yes. He says, because he's the son of Bali, right, I will not kill him. Right? So, with his remaining 4 arms, so now he has got his 4 arms. He then gives his daughter Usha to Aniruddha, and then they return back to Dwaraka. Right? So now we are in chapter 64. In chapter 64, it's a very simple story here, that there is this one time the Prince of Yadus, the young boys, they are playing. And when they get thirsty, they go to a well and they see this amazing lizard that they've never seen before. And so, when I was reading this, it reminds me of my son, My son likes to draw dinosaurs. I mean, all boys do. They like to draw about dinosaurs. So this attraction to lizards is there. Right? So they immediately go to Krishna and say, Krishna, Lord, my dear dad, my father, I've seen this amazing, come, please come. So implored, Krishna goes, and then with his left hand, he picks up the lizard out, and immediately the lizard turns into a wonderful, demigod. So then Krishna asks him, who are you? Krishna knows who he is, but he asks, glorify yourself. Who are you? So then you get a chance to glorify yourself, right? So Nriga actually starts glorifying. I am King Nriga. If you have heard of charitable people, surely you have heard of me. Srila Prabhupada then actually writes that this story of Nriga explains the problem with karma kanda. And this guy is a very charitable person, right? So one time what happens is, in one of his yagyas, charity that he's doing, a cow that he had already donated to a brahmana, that cow comes back into the gaushala again. And so, by providence, King Nriga gives that cow to another brahmana. And now these 2 brahmanas start fighting. He says, no, this is my cow. King gave it to me. The brahmana said, no, the king gave it to me. Finally, in their, anger, they come in front of the king, and the king realizes, when they do the stats and they check everything, say, yeah, actually, you're right. This cow was already donated. So, the king says, let's resolve this matter. I will give 100,000 cows to you and 100,000 cows to you. Let's resolve the matter. The two said, no. So, Brahmaswa means the property of a brahmana cannot be touched. Right? So, this proposal is rejected. And the brahmanas leave. Now this causes a big impiety in King Nriga's life. So at the time of his death, he meets Yamaraj. Now Yamaraj is telling him, my dear king, you have a lot of pious deeds that you have done, and you have a lot of impious deeds. You have some impious deeds. Which one would you like to consume first? The red pill or the blue pill? Matrix. So, it is explained here that Yamaraj even hints to King Nriga that you have done so much charity that you will enjoy for many lives that I can't even count. But he says that this guy is so foolish, King Nriga. He's thinking that, let me finish my impious thing first and then I'll enjoy. So he's thinking. So he says, I'll take my impiety first. Yamaraj is like, and Srila Prabhupada also right. This is the problem with, karmis. They always make the wrong mistake, choose the wrong thing. So, it is explained that King Nriga, when he gets this position of the lizard, he lives for many years. But then, in that, during that time that he's living, he starts remembering about Krishna. And then by his remembrance of Krishna, he finally meets Krishna. And then, he takes this position and then he goes to the demigod. So sometimes what happens is, you may meet Krishna as well. You may get benedictions for Krishna, but you may not necessarily become a devotee. Not necessarily. Right? So one has to be careful about these things. Now, something very interesting here is when this story is there, Krishna actually tells something very amazing to his relatives, the young boys who are there. He says, my dear boys, learn from this king Nriga that the possession of a brahmana should never be touched. And he tells this to the young boys. Right? He says, if some foolish king tries to usurp a Brahmana's property, he will go to hell. Now, the reason why this is important and why this point is being made is actually that these same boys, they then go in front of the Narad Muni and Asita and all of these Brahmanas, and they dress up Samba as a pregnant lady. They dress up Samba as a pregnant lady, and at this point, this story of this advice of Krishna should be heeded. The blessing of a Brahmana is his property. It is explained that when somebody does yagya for you, right? So let's say you ask a priest to do a yagya. Once the yagya is completed, all the benedictions of that yagya is with the priest. It's with him. If you do not give donation to the priest, right, you will get nothing. You will not get any of the benedictions. So that is why it is said that by giving donation to the priest, you get those benedictions of that yagya. Right? So never forget to give, and never forget this, that the benedictions are actually the possessions of the Brahmana. So the reason why this story is important is the boys forget this part. And then the Maushala Leela begins. The end of the Yadu dynasty begins from that. Right? So now in chapter 65, we see the story of Balram visits Vrindavan. So we actually see that Balram, he's missing his parents. He goes to Vrindavan and they have very nice get together. And see, Krishna had already gone back to Vrindavan with Uddhava as Aprakata Leela. So then Balram also goes because he had also promised to return. So he also goes and then he meets the Brajabasis. And it is explained here that the gopis, just like they were speaking with Uddhava, they speak with Balram as well. Does Krishna remember us? If he doesn't remember us, then we don't remember him. So, the same mood, the same, thing is there. And then, of course, Krishna then, he gives messages. It is our, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that Krishna gave, each message for each gopi in such a way that it stays in their heart, in the hridayam. It goes into their hearts. Right? And then, Balram stays there for 2 months, and Balram also has his own gopis. Right? And there is a place near Vrindavan, what is called Sri Rama Ghata. So there they enjoy, Balram also enjoys Rasa Leela. So in one of this enjoyment of Rasa Leela, when he's drinking the famous Varuni, whenever it's Balram Jayanti, it's coming now, right? 3rd, 4th, it's coming in next month. Prabhu must be preparing for a big feast. So, big feast means whatever feast can be done during this coronavirus lockdown. But, doing that, we drink Varuni. Sometimes I see kids outside, they're all, chugging Varunis. I like to chug Varunis. Maximum I've done is 10. I've never gone past 10, but 10 glasses. So anyway, Balram is drinking this Varuni and, drinking honey, he becomes intoxicated. And then he asks, Yamuna, my dear Yamuna, please come here. Please come near me. All right, it's because I wish to, bathe with the gopis. But it's explained that Yamuna doesn't come, she doesn't listen. So then Balram gets very angry and then he takes his plow and he's about to, pull Yamuna. Right, so in Vrindavan, there is this place where Yamuna actually travels backwards. Like when you go to Vrindavan Parikrama, you'll see all these places. And then it's explained that by that axing, right, there were many tributaries that formed from Yamuna. And Jiva Goswami also explains that actually the personality Yamuna, when she comes and asks for forgiveness from Balaram, right, she's actually a partial incarnation of Kalindi, because Kalindi is already married to Krishna. If you remember, in the 5 princes, she's already married to Krishna. So she's another manifestation, and then so she asks for forgiveness. And then Balram forgives her. So in this way, he passes his time in Vrindavan. Now this chapter 66 is fun for devotees. Right, this is a fun chapter. Man, today I've gone really slow. Wow, I've only reached chapter 66. Anyway, but this is a fun story. There's this story of this King Paundraka. Now we all know this story, right? One time while Balram is away. Now this King Paundraka chooses the time when Balram is not there because he's thinking Balram is very powerful. He says, Balram is in, Vrindavan. He sends a message to Krishna and says, my dear Krishna. And this is in the assembly hall, where Ugrasen and everyone is there. He tells them, my dear Krishna, it is I who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudev. You have unnecessarily taken the position. Give up all these weaponry and all these, Srivastha and all of this, things that you are holding, Vaijantimala and all. Give it up and surrender to me. So it is explained that when the people in Yadu, they listen to this messenger in this assembly hall, they laugh and laugh and laugh. And they are laughing for a considerable time. Can you just imagine, right? Somebody coming in front of Krishna saying, I am Krishna. So Krishna then tells the messenger, tell Paundraka that I'm coming. I'm coming to meet him. So then immediately Krishna, he proceeds to meet this King Paundraka. And it's explained that this King Paundraka, at that time he's staying in Kashi. So Kashi, Varanasi. Right? So this is a place where most of the impersonalists and Mayavadis live. So here, you'll see a lot of people, I am God, you are God, we are all God. So Paundraka is the God amongst all of them. So it is explained that when Krishna comes there, the king of Kashi also comes out. And he declares to all the people, don't worry, I'll kill this imposter Krishna. And then Paundraka will be established as the real Vasudeva. So they come out to fight with Krishna and this King so what happens is when Krishna comes face to face with Paundraka, he sees this guy Paundraka is really into it, right? He's built 4 arms, right? He's got the Shankha Chakra, everything, right? He's colored his body black, blackish blue. So like he's really into he's into that form. He's really into it. So when Krishna sees this, he starts laughing. He's like, I can't believe this. This guy is so into this mood that I am Vasudeva. He's actually dressed up as me. He's put fake extra arms. This is like full on. So then finally Krishna is like, this is it. And then he kills Paundraka. It is actually explained by the acharyas that once he kills Paundraka, Paundraka gets Sarupya Mukti. Because he was meditating on Vasudeva. Only mistake he was doing is that I am Vasudeva. That was the only mistake he made, right? And then it is also explained that after this, the king of Kashi, Krishna, he shoots an arrow and he beheads the king of Kashi and he throws it into the kingdom of Kashi. So it's funny. There's a funny scene here where when this head falls, the people of Kashi are thinking, whose head is this? Maybe it's Krishna's head because it's colored. It's colored bluish. They're thinking, is this Krishna's head? Oh, maybe Paundraka has defeated Krishna. And after some time, they realize, the color is coming off. Like, no, wait, this is King of Kashi? What's going on? And so this, when they realize this King of Kashi has been killed, then the son, Sudakshina, he decides, man, I'm going to destroy Krishna. So he immediately starts praying to Lord Shiva. Okay, and then when he prays to Lord Shiva becomes very pleased and he says, I want to destroy Krishna. He says, okay, do Tantra. Right now, just imagine, a few chapters ago, Krishna defeated, Lord Shiva. He defeated Shiva Jwara. So here Lord Shiva is telling him, do Tantra, and from Tantra, you can, defeat Krishna. So this is black magic, voodoo and black magic. So then, Sudakshina says, okay, let's do it. He does black magic, and then from that fire comes out Dakshinagni. Dakshinagni is like, the south fire. This is the fire that is, also used in the Parlaya. Right, so when this Dakshina Agni comes out, the Dakshina Agni says, Lord Shiva says, anybody other than a qualified Brahmana can be killed by this Dakshina Agni, except a qualified Brahmana. Now, Krishna is the most qualified Brahmana. So anyway, sometimes people don't think. So then, this demon, he comes to Dwaraka, and then the Dwaraka Vasis, they start screaming, please save us, Krishna. Krishna is playing chess. He says, what happened? Oh, they've come. Okay, Sudarshan, go. So Sudarshan Chakra goes there, and Sudarshan Chakra, first, it illuminates by millions of suns. And this, Dakshinagni is completely bewildered. And then it puts excessive cold, and this fire demon freezes. So then finally the demon goes back. Now it is explained that in Tantra and black magic, right? If you have put mantras to destroy someone, if that person cannot be destroyed, then that mantra comes back to destroy you. The tantra, it comes back to destroy you. So then this, Dakshinagni comes back to Varanasi and he burns Varanasi down. He kills, Sudakshini, he kills the people who have done the puja, and the whole city is destroyed. A complete city is devastated. So here we have to also appreciate that the reason why Krishna devastates this Varanasi is to show that this Mayavadi and this impersonal philosophy has no value. Right? So now we'll go to chapter 67. Let me just see how far we are going. So let's do one thing. I've gone very slow today. I'll stop at chapter 67, right? So give me just 2 more minutes and we'll wind up. So in chapter 67, there is the story of the gorilla, Dvivida. Now this guy Dvivida, he was a big friend of Bhaumasura. He's a very good friend of Bhaumasura. Right? In fact, it is explained that Dvivida was a minister of King Sugriv. So he had actually fought alongside Lord Ram to defeat Ravan. So very qualified personality. He's a very qualified personality. But because of his association of Bhaumasura, so Jiva Goswami is explaining this, right? Even Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur writes the same thing, that because of his association with the demon Bhaumasura, he also became crazy. So when Dvivida realizes that, Krishna has killed Bhaumasura, he's like, I'm going to avenge the death. Now, it's not like he's thinking that, actually, that's the son of Krishna. So what's the problem? No, he goes crazy, like gorilla, right? So then what he does is he starts, harassing the sadhus and the sants. And then finally he comes to this one place called Raivata, where Lord Balram is sitting with all his associates, the lady associates. So when he comes there, when this guy Dvivida sees Lord Balram, he immediately becomes attracted. He's never seen such an attractive person. So that's interesting, isn't it? He doesn't get attracted by the girls. He gets attracted by Balaram. He's like, wow, he's such an amazing personality. So then he starts jumping from one tree to the next tree and he's, making noise, making faces and all. It's very funny the way it's described, right? And so what is happening is everyone's laughing and looking at the monkey. So finally, Balaram just throws a stone and says, go away from here. So Dvivida, he escapes. And then he's trying to get Balram's attention, but he's not able to. So finally, he starts tearing the clothes of Balaram. So, Balram is swimming, so in the lake. So he starts tearing his clothes. So Balram's like, what's this guy doing, tearing my clothes, causing commotion. So finally, Balram gets angry and there's a wonderful fight that happens between Dvivida and Balaram. So it is explained that, Dvivida keeps throwing trees at Balaram. And he throws so many trees that he makes that forest treeless. Every tree he throws at him. Then he's thinking trees are finished. Then he goes up a mountain, he starts throwing stones. And then he throws so many stones that the stones get finished. So trees are finished, stones are finished. Finally, with his bare arms, he comes to fight with Balaram. Now, of course, Balram gives him one hit on his collarbone and he kills him. So when Dvivida dies, then all the demigods again become relieved. They say, this guy Dvivida, friend of Bhaumasura, was also causing a lot of problems for us. So then Balram kills him. So we will stop here. We've actually gone over time. Actually, I am now 4 chapters short. Instead of catching up, I've gone slower. I should catch up. So we will try to rush through the rest of this. But we will start from chapter 68 from I think it's on Thursday now. Not tomorrow, but on Thursday, we will continue with Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.